In this video, I'm going to take you step by step through the SBA loan process, explain what happens during each part of the process, and answer the age-old question, how long does it take to close my SBA loan? Welcome to SBA Unlocked. My name is Shem Dupay. I'm an SBA loan specialist at Reliant, and today we're going to be diving deep into the ins and outs of the SBA borrowing process. How long does it take to close my SBA loan? The usual answer is it depends, but we aren't here to give non-answers, so let's break it down. There are essentially 4 phases to the SBA loan: pre-approval, pre-underwriting, underwriting, and closing. Let's take each of these on their own and discuss the timelines one by one. Stage 1, pre-approval. This is the initial stage of the process when you're first reaching out to your lender and trying to figure out if they can finance your deal and on what terms. This generally takes 2 to 5 days depending on the loan request and your preparedness as the borrower. It's important that at this stage you can readily provide the details of the project so that your lender can quickly get what he or she needs to issue you a pre-approval. You'll be having a conversation with your lender about the details of the loan, but also about your own personal details and financials. Once a lender has all the information they need from you, they'll compile it in a memo and present it to their credit officer for a pre-screen of the deal. This is the part that usually takes a day or 2 on the part of the lender. This is like a mini underwrite or presentation that gets ahead of some of the things that could potentially sneak up later in underwriting. It also gives a good summary of the loan request, and the lender can decide if it fits into their appetite. If the credit officer likes the memo, it'll be approved and a term sheet or loan proposal can be issued. This loan proposal is usually a high-level overview of the terms of the loan: interest rate, loan term, and any special conditions. This is your pre-approval and our way of providing you with our high-level interest in your request, as well as providing you with the terms we would be offering you if you reach final approval. Now, I'm sure you're looking for a quick turnaround on a term sheet. You want to know that you are pre-approved as fast as possible, but there is an important note to make here. A little bit of legwork on the front end can go a long way in preventing the deal from blowing up in underwriting. It's important to be aware of lenders who will send you a same-day term sheet. If you receive one, you can be sure that they did very little due diligence on your file, and it can often translate to a deal that dies weeks later or a bait and switch on the terms of the final loan approval. While it's tempting to go with the quickest term sheet or the lowest rate, beware of same-day term sheets. Okay, back to our loan proposal. After the lender provides you with the loan proposal, you'll review it, make sure that the terms are acceptable to you, and that it's something that you want to move forward with. The next stage is for you to sign it and send the lender a good faith deposit. Good faith deposits are a very common practice in SBA lending. What they do is they show the lender your commitment to moving forward by requiring a bit of skin in the game. They also provide funds for third-party reports later on in the process. They typically range from $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the project and how many third-party costs there'll be, appraisals, business valuations, that sort of thing. We can get into that when we discuss the closing phase, but just know that as long as no third-party reports are ordered by the lender, if your loan is not approved, the good faith deposit is fully refundable. Term sheets also usually have an expiration date, so it's important to keep an eye on that. Stage 2, pre-underwriting. At this point, you've accepted a loan proposal and sent us a good faith deposit. That's a big step. Now it's time to compile the rest of the documents needed to get the loan underwritten quickly and efficiently. To do this, we at Reliant have what's called a loan coordinator, who is going to create the list of needed items and help you complete it as quickly as possible. They're essentially assigned to you to help you with anything you need at any time until the loan closes. It's pretty awesome. The checklist they provide you might differ based on your specific project, but here are some of the most common items you can expect to see. A business plan detailing how the loan is going to improve the business, projections that back up your business plan, the financials, a letter of intent or a purchase agreement if the loan request is to purchase real estate or a business. I've seen borrowers complete this checklist in 24 hours, and I've seen some take 2 weeks or more. Realistically, I think 5 business days for this phase is about an average for a focused borrower. The good news is, the faster you provide these items, the faster the process will move. You're in control here. Once the items are provided, your next stop is underwriting. Stage 3, underwriting. At this stage, you completed the checklist that your loan coordinator gave you, and they have everything needed to send this file to an underwriter. Once they do this, your underwriter is going to review the entire file in detail. They're working to create what is called a credit memo, which will detail the loan request narrative, as well as document strengths, weaknesses, financial charts, and an analysis of the guarantors. This is similar to what you worked on with the lender to create in stage 1, but on steroids. Additionally, the underwriter will have a call with you to discuss any questions they have after their initial review. Many people can be intimidated by this stage, as it's often seen as scrutinizing or negative. You often imagine something like Shark Tank, but in reality, it's not the case. The underwriter is actually more aligned with you than you realize. It's their job to find large issues with the loan that you may have missed, and that could save you serious hardship down the road. Your risks are the lender's risks. While I totally get that you want the loan approved and that this stage can be exciting and a bit nerve-wracking, your underwriter wants the loan to work and for you to succeed, so there's no need to be intimidated. This underwriting of the file generally takes between 7 to 10 business days, depending on the complexity of the file. Once the file is underwritten and the credit memo is completed, it's reviewed by a final approver. This could be a single person like a credit director, or it could be a group of approvers like a loan committee. If the loan is approved, you'll be sent a commitment letter, which ensures that the lender is now officially on board with funding your loan request. Stage 4, closing. Okay, last step. Your loan was approved and you've decided to sign your commitment letter. Congratulations, this is a big deal. And the biggest hurdle has been cleared. And you now have a path to closing your loan. At this stage, a second good faith deposit may be requested depending on the costs that are expected to be incurred. But don't worry, the closing costs are typically rolled into the loan proceeds and financed so that the good faith deposit can be given back to you at closing or counted towards your down payment. After signing the commitment letter, a closing specialist is assigned to the loan and will create a closing checklist for you. This checklist is going to include items such as life insurance, business insurance, finalized purchase agreements, leases, equipment lists, entity documentation, and other various documents that are pertinent to the project or that were required as a closing condition. This checklist can seem overwhelming, especially if this is your first time getting an SBA loan. And that's why we usually have what we call a closing kickoff call. We bring all the stakeholders together and go over the checklist one by one so that everybody understands what's needed to get to the closing table. This is the roadmap to closing. This is also around the time when we usually get the question, when can we close? The answer is fairly simple. Once this list is completed, you can close your loan in about 5 business days. In other words, the faster you move, the faster the loan moves. That being said, on my loans, what I like to do is I like to target a realistic closing date and work backwards to accomplish that. So if we choose a closing date 30 days out, that means the checklist must be completed by day 25. The reason we need 5 days after the completion of the checklist is because we have an internal review of the file which takes a few days. This review ensures that everything is in compliance with the SBA. It allows enough time for the closers, attorneys, and you, the borrower, to get the logistics of the closing ironed out. The last thing you want is to be stumbling into a chaotic closing. That being said, the closing is the longest single phase of the process, and that's because there are a lot of third parties who are contributing to the completion of the checklist. For example, you have to get a lot of business insurances, but you're ultimately at the insurance agent's mercy as to how quickly they move. Maybe you need a real estate appraisal, and the vendor says it'll take 5 weeks to get completed. Well, now our 30-day target closing just got pushed to 5 weeks at least. Generally speaking, I think 5 weeks from signed commitment letter is actually a pretty realistic closing. I've seen it done faster and I've seen it done slower. Of course, if the checklist is done sooner, you can always close sooner, but it's good to be realistic. Altogether, the loan process is split into 4 phases: pre-approval, pre-underwriting, underwriting, and closing. On average, from the first call to your lender to the closing table, you're looking at about 60 to 65 days, or about 2 months for a focused and smooth SBA loan. Of course, there will always be things that come up that can and will delay this timeline, but that's where it's important to work with a lender who's experienced and who knows where and how to help you focus. There are many lenders out there who can close an SBA loan, but there are far fewer who are experts at it and who can offer you more than a closed loan. So be sure to pick a lender who's responsive and appears to be focused. Make sure your lender is picking up the phone and giving you clear answers. This will translate all the way to closing.
Thanks for watching SBA Unlocked. We hope you found this video helpful. If you want to get in touch with us, send us an email. We'll leave it in the description. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button.